Sports fans,
Sports lovers.
welcome back to another episode of Global Sports from a Caribbean perspective. The place where we provide you with the best games, the best teams, the best players, give you the best takes on global sports from a Caribbean perspective. And I'm your host today, Shabba, and I'm here with
Dops.
and we had a great weekend of VSPL football, and we are here to review it with you. One time, goals galore, late drama, and a historic win, and yet another terrifying statement from the league leaders. Let's get straight into it, where we had Predators taking on Jebelle on Friday. Jebelle continuing to prove that they are one of the toughest teams in the league right now. They came out aggressive and purposeful from the opening whistles in the Grant opened the scoring in the 13th minute with a well-directed header from a Delano Benjamin corner. And before Predators could settle, Devontae McDowell doubled the advantage after excellent work down the wing from Java Udin. To their credit, the defending champions responded well through Cortland Williams, who now has 3 goals in the last 2 games. Then came the major turning point as Java Udin had the chance to kill the game off from the penalty spot, but Jadiel Chance came up huge with the save. Predators pushed, but Jebelle stood firm. 3 massive points for the Green Machine.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a game that before was really hard to call, and it's really hard to separate these title contenders slash the mid-table teams, the Jebels, the Layou, the North Leeward Predators. It's really hard to separate them in terms of quality. And any day, anyone could win on this. The Jebel just had the better game, although they had a late penalty save, and so it was great resilience from them to hold out for the victory, and it's just a good look going forward. They still a bit way off in the title contention, but 3 points is all in all a positive.
Yeah, as you mentioned, these teams in the mid-table below System 3, would have to say is, already running away with it. The Layous, the Jebels, and the North Leeward Predators, even the Besco Pastures and the likes of Awesome, you'd have to say are about the same level. So when these teams get together head to head, it's a bit difficult to call. And as we could see in the game, there wasn't much between the two teams. Java had one of his better games for some time. He did excellently setting up Devontae McDowell for the second and just unlucky with the penalty, but great save from Jadiel Chance. So unlucky for Predators, Jebelle march on. And while Jebels were grinding out a huge result, Layou needed something dramatic of their own to stay in title contention. So we move on to Layou, who take on Hope, and it was an absolute heartbreak for Hope International. This game looked destined for a draw, tight, physical, competitive game, chances at both ends, but no breakthrough. Then in stoppage time, super sub Dequan Springer delivered a slick 1-2 with right back Jamari Lynch opened the defense, and Springer kept his composure to slot home the winner. That's championship mentality / winning ugly when necessary. What do we think about that 90th minute winner by Dequan Springer?
Yeah, very, very, very important win for Layou. It was a tough one. For some reason, I saw it. I saw it coming before that. Hope would make it a very competitive match for them, make it respectable, especially after coming off of two wins. I thought it would have been a very difficult one for Layou to handle, and yeah, they came out with 3 points, and they could be not more than happy with that. Need to keep as close to System 3 as possible, because you never know, they lost before in the league. Anything could happen, and so they just need to be as close as possible for any little slip up, to make it a nice little run in. So that's what I'm rooting for. As a neutral, we want to see it as competitive as possible, and yeah, great credit to Layou for coming up with the 3 points here.
Yeah, a bit unlucky for Hope, who I wouldn't necessarily say they were playing for a draw, but it would have been a good draw for them, after the season that they've had so far. Frustrating Layou to earn themselves a point, but the quality of Layou told they were knocking on the door for the majority of the game. The commentator at the time said Wendell Coffey. I was a bit confused when I was watching the replay. I thought it was Wendell Coffey as well, because he used to play for Hope, and it would have been a very controversial type moment. But it was Dequan Springer in the end who finished superbly. I'd have to say so. Credit to Lee for their victory. Very unlucky for Hope, who now have to watch their back. But speaking of statement victories, what happened next was pure destruction. I'd say that we have to I'd have to say that we called it before the game as well last week in our pre-game prediction that if anything but a heavy victory for System 3 would be a surprise, and we won't let down. The score was 12 goals to 1 in favor of System 3 over Avenues United. System 3 absolutely dismantled Avenues in one of the most ruthless performances we've ever seen in the VSPL. And once again, the main man was Alzino Solomon. 3 goals, 3 assists, total demolition. Zibian Cunningham also grabbed 2. Javin Sutherland also grabbed 2 from the back. Karim Davis, Denzel Bascom, Shemran Phillips, James Grant, and youngster Aidan Solomon all got involved. I'm not sure what is his relation to
Nephew.
Azino. Yeah, that's his nephew. So there you go. So to be fair to Avenues, Damal Francis scored probably the best goal of the game with an absolutely stunning free kick. But this game belonged entirely to the league leaders who are marching on to victory in this competition. So what much can we say?
Really not much. Just big up to System 3 for, not getting complacent, not taking their feet off the gas, and being ruthless as they should. If the title race does come down to
Goal
a
difference.
goal difference, they're unmatched where that is concerned. So yeah, they're only doing what they're supposed to do. Unlucky again to Avenues. I know in FIFA it says not FIFA, but I know if a man meet a man with too much sauce, 1-0, a man gone, not you, Josh. A man gone, bro. And I wish Avenues could have hit the end match button there, but they couldn't. And just, yeah, to give them praise still for not going out as much as it was a whimper, still putting up a fight. Because I was telling my brother, yo, like we get them out the field now. We get on some younger players. Maybe that would stop it a little bit. He's saying, boy, them man could get 15, and I'm happy that they didn't get that. So again, it was a tough match for the Avenues players, but shout out to them for still, trying to fight all the way through the 90th minute, and big up the referee for not adding extra time.
Yeah, what else can be said there? Coach Hayden goal for Avenues stood no chance, obviously.
Some nice saves.
He made some valiant saves as well. He wasn't gonna go out there and just lay down. So credit to Avenues for at least, putting in some sort of effort. Credit to Francis for, of course, showing his class as usual with the free kick. But there was only one team out there on the pitch. Avenues have now still not won a game. 12 games into the season, their goal difference is as bad as
Minus
ever.
33.
It's currently minus 33, as my partner here mentioned, and it's not looking good for them. Still a historic club. No matter what, you cannot erase what they've done in the past, but the current version of them is a sad state. But System 3 continue to march on, and from a 12-goal demolition to a game that was decided by just one magical moment. The Nelson Lewis again. Camdonia versus Besco, 1-0. Another clutch moment from one of the most underrated players in the league this season. Controlled beautifully with his right foot, swivel, and a left foot rocket into the bottom corner. No keeper in the league was going to save that. One chance, one finish, 3 points for Besco. Classic Besco performance, we'd have to say.
Yeah, 100%. And classic Chelsea performance, I would say as well. Gritty, structured, wasteful.
True.
Because they've had chances to equalize and even to, if they had equalized, gone on to win the game, and they failed miserably at that. So shout out to Besco, keeping it tight. They got the rubber the green in terms of luck where chances miss or concern, but I think this was our 3 points last. If I'm being honest, watching the game, especially even if they couldn't get the few goals before the final chance of the game, sharp. Like, I mean, Luke shot, we know that, and it might be hard for him to get over the bounce of the ball and get it on target. But a chance like that, 90th minute, 2-3 yards out, and it looped over the goal. Even the coach gave up. The coach left his bench in frustration, and I could understand it too. I mean, that was the final chance. We've seen coach show anguish in various ways. I mean, but I mean that wasn't the best way to handle it. But I could understand how frustrated and hurt he was at that moment because they had the game to win. I would say they had enough chances to score at least 2 goals. So I would say they had the game to win, and they along with the coach through those chances greatly.
Yeah, so we definitely understand Coach Wilson's frustration in that situation. His team, he could say that he coached his team to a victory, but they weren't able to execute, on the pitch. As you mentioned, they created a lot of chances. There was a dogged performance from both teams. Both teams, as we mentioned earlier, these teams aren't necessarily separated by much. So when Dinelson Lewis stepped up with his moment of brilliance, that is the difference in the game. That is what stood out in the end. Whereas Chelsea or haphazard with their chances, one would have to say.
Yep.
So, as we mentioned, a classic Besco performance, not pretty, but clinical and effective in the final third. As mentioned, Nelson Lewis, one of the most underrated players in the season thus far. So shout out to him. Moving on to final game of the weekend, which definitely has to be the upset of the weekend as well, which saw awesome take on Bequia United. Bequia have done it. Their first win of the season arrives in game week 12. McQuinn Snag, my brother, Ethan Snag, opened the scoring after an excellent through ball from Jermaine Williams before Awesome equalized through a Zeddy Millington penalty. But when Beck needed a hero, the talisman stepped up. Mark Brown, a cool finish, which was a huge moment that gave Beckwith 3 massive points. And suddenly, relegation battle gets very, very interesting. Thoughts on Beckwith's first win of the season?
Yeah, an improved performance. Very decisive, especially on the counter attack. And you could see the game plan. Huge shout out to Kamal Best and the rest of the defenders who really stuck in there and made it really difficult for Enville and Milton and the likes to really penetrate and cause much trouble. Especially Enville. I saw that they shifted him from the center of the attack to the right hand side, and he didn't cause the trouble we know him to cause. He struggled to dribble past defenders, and it was a really poor game from him. And I think it was Zeddy's probably one of his best performances of the season, trying to string passes together and link up play. But everything just didn't connect for them. But shout out to Bequia, the counter attack. Awesome lost it high up the field from a throw, and it was about 4 passes from defense to midfield to the wingman. One ball over to Snag, who one time finished it with his left foot. So it was beautiful football to watch, and it wasn't something we saw from Bequia since probably the game against Hope, where I think it finished 3-all. So huge credit to them. They were really decisive. They had their tails up, and Mark Brown looked like such a polished player when he took that one away. So yeah, huge credit to Bequia again for coming out with the 3 points. And yeah, as I said before, this is what we like to see at the top of the table and the bottom of the table.
Most definitely, because coming into the game, neither of us gave Bequia a shot. This is the best that we've seen from them in some time. This is game week 12, probably from around game week 5 or 6. This has been their best performance and their best result of the season thus far. As you mentioned, the first goal came as a result of a wonderful counter attack, one of the best goals of the week for sure. A very well executed team goal that, as you said, took about 3 to 4 passes. Excellently finished by Snag, as we mentioned, with his left, and the keeper stood no chance. It seems as though Chad Stroh is injured or missing in action
Right.
for some reason, and as you mentioned, they shifted Enville out to his side, and he wasn't as effective. But overall, Awesome as a unit weren't effective in their attacking play, and it is a credit to Beckway and the way that they defended and basically had pride in themselves to not go down with a whimper, to not be easily relegated. And as we mentioned now, they're only 5 points off of the relegation zone and being safe. So credit to them for turning their season around, and hopefully this could be the start of something great for them, because as we mentioned, we want to see as much competition as possible. And that wraps up our wrap of game week 12, and we'll go straight into our game week awards.
Players.
Players of the
Of course, we have to give an award to the 3 goal man, the 3 assist man in the 12-1 demolition of Avenues. Azina Salomon, ridiculous numbers, FIFA numbers, pro club numbers. You have to shout him out. And also, I want to shout out his nephew, Aidan Salomon. Young man, been watching his uncle do it all the while and got an opportunity and, took it by the scruff of the neck. So just shout out for him for, the first goal for System Trees. And big up the Nelson Lewis as well, bro. I think it was the goal, we must agree, the goal of the weekend.
for sure.
To turn, control with one foot and turn one time and slap it with the next. And, snapshot keeper had no chance. It's a huge shout out to him, and he has been, flying under the radar with these kinds of performances and these kind of goals. And so shout out again to the Nelson Lewis. And to the team of the week, of course, we have to give it to Bequia United, first win of the season after 12 weeks. Now only 5 points from safety with 6 games remaining. Relegation battle, nicely heated, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, let's move on to the table review. System 3 remain runaway leaders on 31 points. Layou keeping chase in second. Jebelle climbing to third after defeating the defending champions, while Predators continue to slip. Followed by Besco Pastures, Awesome FC on 17 points, Hope and Chelsea, who now have to look out for Bequia United, who now on 7 points. Avenues United remain winless on 3 points with a negative 33 goal difference. And in the race for the golden boot, Azino Salomon has now hit the 20 goal mark, which is very, very impressive. 20 goals in 12 games, and he also missed a game, so it's 20 goals in 11 games for him. Kobe Mingo remains on 9 with DL Spring. Zibian Cunningham has now risen to 8, and Garrett Ledgerwood is on 7.
Just to give praise to Zibian Cunningham as well, who could have scored a hat-trick yesterday, but I think he was the one who supplied young Solomon, with his goal. So, as I say, he could have gone on to 9 goals to be tied with Migno and DL Spring, but decided to give that goal to young Solomon.
Yeah, shout out to Cunningham for his unselfishness there. Moving on to game week 13, and these games will take place in the midweek for reasons we'll get to a bit later. So we'll start off with Predators versus Hope. Predators took the first game 2-1. Predators desperately need a response after another disappointing defeat. So can Hope frustrate another top side and continue their resurgence?
I think they can frustrate another top side, but I believe not Leeward would still have that resilience and still a bit more of that star quality and know-how, because we've seen a bit more from them. We've known what they can do as opposed to what Hope is trying to show us. So I would roll with not Leeward on this one. I'll just go with a 1-0 margin.
I Hope have been very inconsistent this season, very goal shy as well. I don't see an avenue for them to pick up a victory here. It would also be very difficult for them to get on the score sheet as well, I would have to assume, based on what we've seen, to be fair, and I'll have to go with a solid but not pretty 2-0 victory for the defending champions in this one. Moving on to Jebelle versus Avenues United. Jebelle took the last one, 1-0. One team flying high and one team searching for confidence. After conceding 12, how do Avenues respond?
They would respond with some fight, of course, but I honestly don't think it would be enough. And especially with Jebelle seeing what happened last weekend, they would have their tails up as well. I would like to see if they could fold their bags up with as much goals as possible. So I only see it going one way sharp, comprehensive victory for Jebelle, and I will go 3-0.
Yeah, I could only see one outcome here, because Jebelle has been playing better in the last few weeks. They defeated the defending champions just the weekend gone. Avenues, meanwhile, are struggling for confidence, but not for effort. I could see it being a bit tighter than the 3 goal margin. I could also see Avenues maybe getting on the scoreboard, but I could see a victory here for Jebelle by 2 goals to 1. Moving on to the third fixture of this week, which will see Layou take on Awesome. The last game played out to a 1-1 draw. So it potentially the match of the game week. Can Awesome slow down Layou's potential title push once again?
Yeah, they can, being one of the strongest defensive teams and most gritty and frustrating teams to play against. Although right now they seem a little blunt in the attack, I think they could still, give Layou, a bit of questions to answer. And Layou as well haven't been flying high recently in the past 3 games or so. They have been finding it hard to find that attacking flair and goals that they found so easily all the way up in the season. So yeah, I believe this game would go just as the fourth meeting. I think it would fizzle out into a draw. 1-1 again, 2-2 the most.
I could see this result also happening because Awesome has a tendency to frustrate the bigger teams. And as you mentioned, you haven't necessarily been flying on all cylinders. Mingo and Ledgerwood haven't necessarily been scoring freely as they were earlier on in the season. So I could also see it being a frustrating game for Layou, but I could see them just edging this one out by a 2 goals to 1 margin. Maybe if Chad Stroh is involved, that would be a well, not maybe. If he is involved, it would definitely be a boost for Awesome, and that might potentially change the outcome of the game. But as things stand, I'm going to go with a 2-1 victory to Layou. Moving on to the final fixture of this week's VSPL, which will see Besco Pastures take on Bequia. Last meeting was a 2-0 victory for Besco. Bequia finally have momentum though. So is this the start of a real survival push from the Grenadine side?
I won't have a knee jerk reaction at all. While they did win against Chelsea, I think Besco is a tougher task, more organized, um, both on defense and going forward. And I think that they would have to approach this game with a bit more caution. If they, go out with the same level of intensity and eagerness, I think Besco, could take them apart. With that being said, I feel like it would be a very tough game. Both teams will score, and I'll give Besco the edge, 2 goals to 1 over Bequia.
I could also see Beckwith trying to come into this game with confidence and momentum based off of the surprising victory over Awesome on the weekend. Um, Besco will definitely be praised for that, considering Tosti being the coach. I'm sure that he will have them very prepared for a game against his hometown team. I'll see Besco being very, very prepared for the intensity and physicality that Beckwith might bring to this game. And as a result, I could see them having enough to fend them off and go down on the other end and put their chances away. Maybe it will be another 1 goal margin, as we saw over the weekend against Camdonia for Besco. So I'm going to go with 1-0 to Besco. And the final game for this week that was supposed to be played, which would have saw the league leaders System 3 take on Camdonia, has been suspended. This fixture has been postponed to facilitate the Tier 2 finals being played. Speaking of the Tier 2 finals, congratulations are in order to Sparta FC and SV United, who both have officially secured promotion to next season's VSPL after reaching to the Tier 2 final. So congratulations to both Sparta FC and SV United, and best of luck to both teams in the final this weekend. So it'll be very exciting to see both teams in the Premier Division next season. SV a bit more familiar to regular viewers of the Premier Division in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as they've been in the Premier very recently. Sparta, a more new club. So congratulations to them on their quick rise and their promotion to the Premier Division. Before we go, as usual, Dappy has his weekly shout out, and this week is someone very, very special.
High praises and belated birthday goes out to Mr. I feel like I should say the Honorable Ian Sardine. Ian Sardine has touched hundreds, close to thousands of lives in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. People branching out into different different professions, whether it's being an athlete, becoming a coach, and I'm pretty sure into other fields. You know, from grassroots to who knows, he has helped to nurture, given the care and taught core values to youngsters. Again, I just want to say shout out to Ian Sardine for being selfless, genuine, and an unsung hero. And I just want to say to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, give the man his flowers. Name the Richmond Hill, our grammar school, Pastures, as we just call it. We could name it Ian Sardine playing field if you're naming it the Fred Trimmingham playing field. But I feel like it's about time we give Ian Sardine his flowers. He's been on the SVGFF executive. He's been Sardine is football. And I think he deserves his flowers, and we should give the Honorable Ian Sardine his flowers.
I don't think anyone is going to disagree with that. If you've ever played football at any level in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, then you've probably played with or against an Ian Sardine team. Probably your first time kicking a football would have been in Ian Sardine's academy as it's known now, but back then everybody used to just say Sardine. So shout out to one of the greatest footballing icons, we'd have to say. Not necessarily as a player, but more in terms of development and the what we're seeing now from the System 3 team that we're talking about that scored 12 over the weekend and is leading the league is all as a result of Sardine's groundwork, and this is what is bearing fruit basically, right? All of the young players that we're seeing, even young Aidan Solomon, is as a result of Mr. Ian Sardine. It might not be directly because of him at his stage right now. He's maybe taking a backseat to things, but it's all because of him. None of it would have been possible without him. What we're seeing right now from Azino Solomon would not have been possible without Ian Sardine, and Zeno would be the first to tell you that. Javin Sutherland, Kevin Francis, everyone would be the first to tell you
Cornelius,
that. Stuart Chandel, Olex Anderson, everyone would tell you the same thing. So shout out to Ian Sardine, an unsung hero. Should definitely have something named after him where football is concerned. So if it's the grammar school playing field, we should definitely do that. So who's ever in charge of that, get Sardine name on something, bro. Just like how we should get Pamanos Ballantyne name on something, bro. And many others who will continue to shout out in the weeks and months and years to come. So that's a wrap from another action-packed week of VSPL. The title race is the relegation battle just got a bit interesting though, and System 3 is just continuing to look as dominant as ever. This has been Global Sports from a Caribbean perspective. The best games, the best teams, the best players, the best takes on Global Sports from a Caribbean perspective. I was your host today, Shabba, and I was here with
Dops.
And we continue to turn passion into purpose. Remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, tell someone. Ping. See you next week.